Okay, let's give it a few minutes so I could check that I'm live and then I'll get started. Okay, I also realized that I should be using Scrivener and not this thing, so let's cut this out. Let's set up Scrivener. Also, I'm back. I know I haven't been on in quite some time, I think. Well, actually, no, I think at one point, like last week or so, I was testing out streaming on both YouTube and Twitch at the same time because I was testing out StreamYard, but just not a fan of StreamYard. Tried it. I can say I tried it, and I can confidently say not from. I'm learning how to actually use the bells and whistles of OBS, and so far I'm just blown away by what it can do, what it allows me to do, and yeah, it's just been like a whole new experience for me. Learning from other people who use OBS, learning what they do and how they do it, and wondering why the hell I haven't been doing that myself. So, anyway, that is what I spent my lovely week off from work doing. Today is actually my day back officially on my 9 to 5 job, so I'm trying to do something today that will help me not be so frazzled about that situation, because I am just a wee bit frazzled about it. So sorry that you are seeing me do this live. I didn't intend for that to happen. Okay. So now I got Scrivener open. I can get rid of this that I shouldn't have had to begin with. One thing that I love about OBS, which is what I loved about Streamlabs OBS and didn't realize that OBS could do the exact same thing, which is allow me to see my chat in OBS itself. So I'm literally looking at my chat right now via OBS. Before, I would either put my chat up on my phone or my iPad, or I would open a YouTube channel page and then pop out the chat window and put it down somewhere on the corner. Am I dropping frames? Really? Why am I dropping frames? That's weird. I should not be dropping frames, because I've been doing like gaming streams these past couple of days and I haven't had any dropped frame issues. Might have to look into that. Okay, so um, something that I did before the break, before my personal break and everything is, and I'm trying to remember where I did it. I think actually no, I didn't do it in my notepad. I think I did it in Google Drive, which is that I created a document of like what my goals would be, what I should be doing each day that I'm streaming, stuff like that. Oh, here it is, my 2022 action plan. So I'm just going to take a quick peek at it to remind myself. So for the month of January, I am plan is to write 11 chapters this month, 8 chapters next month, and then 9 chapters in March. So it's a bit all over the place, but it's based on the fact that I'm going to be writing on Mondays and Wednesdays. With I think these next 2 Fridays, I will be doing my um, Born from Blood chapter writing, but starting on I believe the Friday after, so the 21st. So the 21st is when I will be going back to my Friday fiction writing. So I will not have I won't have 3 days a week where I will be able to write a chapter towards my Born from Blood, because I'm going to be dedicating my Fridays to writing short fiction. I'm keeping that in my 2022 calendar goals. So yeah, so this month I will have, normally I would have had 9, but I'm adding 2 Fridays because this Friday and next Friday I'm technically still off season from writing Friday fiction. But then, so 28 writing days, which is 28 chapters, which should be more than enough for me to complete um, everything that I need to here. Because if you count, I think you can see that. I assume you can. Where Act 1 is 10 chapters, Act 2 is 14 chapters, and then Act 3 is 6 chapters with one epilogue chapter. So altogether, this comes out to 31 chapters. I have already written 2, which means I just have like 29 chapters to write. So if I'm giving myself 28 days, a chapter each day, each writing day, that's, 28 chapters. That leaves one hanging in the wind. But I'm sure on one of these writing days, I'm probably going to, go hard or go ham and end up writing stream sitting. How long each stream is going to be, I don't know at the moment, because um, my job and my duties in my job is kind of up in the air for these next couple of weeks, because there's a bit of transitioning going on. And I know what my um, responsibilities are going to be, but when they're actually going to happen and what it's going to look like for me in terms of like when I start, when I'm going to be starting my day, I know that I won't be able to start when I have been in the past, which first was at noon. Then it was pushed back to 11, and I have a feeling I'm going to be pushed back another hour, and I'm going to have to start my workday at 10 a.m., which I know is like, how lucky am I? Is because I work from home and I'm dealing with clients in different time zones. So that's why my work schedule works out this way, is because originally I was dealing with a client which is on the West Coast, and they didn't start their day until their 9 a.m., which was my noon, which is great. But then I took on more clients that are in Central Time Zone, which is why I ended up having to push my time back an hour. And I'm not exactly sure where the time zone is for the new client that I'm taking on. I believe it's either Central or Eastern, again, which means I'm 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 hoping I can get away with not having to start at 9, but the possibility is there. And trying to say that I will get up at 7, um so that I can stream like from 7 to 9 and still have those 2 hours. I don't know. I can probably do 8 to 9 if they have me start at 9, but I'm hoping they have me start at 10 so I can like maybe do 8 to 9:30, 8 to 9:45. I'm gonna try to get up early and get out of bed. It's one thing to get up, it's another thing for me to actually get out of bed. So I'm usually up at like 6, to be quite honest. And I don't know why I am dropping frames like this. I really don't. I keep seeing the flashing yellow and red on my stream. Because I actually, if I'm not mistaken, I clicked the thing that says to just do it. That says to just like put the best streaming settings based on my setup so that I didn't have to make any guesstimates. So I don't know why it's acting a fool. Wait, I did do that, didn't I? Or did I do that based on... Well, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. I should you know what I should do is turn off seeing that. So that way if I turn off seeing the stat, I mean, I feel like I should be paying attention to the status bar, but it's actually distracting me. So I feel like I just need to not be looking at it. What did I do here? Okay. That's Friday fiction stuff. That's okay. So now that I know, let's get right to trying to write a chapter before I have to officially start my work day, which, because nothing has been set in stone, I'm not signing on to work until 11 o'clock. I know probably I should sign in earlier just because I know that my former boss, who I'm hoping she's going to be told today that she's no longer my boss, that someone else is now going to be the person I report to and not her. But anyway, we'll see what shakes, what goes down. But I'm going to try not to think about that and to just think about writing, because otherwise that might depress me. Okay, I actually need to play a bit of catch up because I have not looked at this in quite some time. So I know I don't think I finished this chapter here. And the thing that's difficult is I'm writing the past chapters in first person, and I'm writing the present chapters in third person. So I need to also be cognizant of that when I'm like rereading something. I'm using different... Why is my dog barking right now? You probably can't hear him, which is great, but it's distracting me. Okay, I'm remembering as I'm rereading this, what has to happen in this chapter. Whew. Just want to see how my stream is looking. If it really is dropping so many frames. Okay, so the part where I left off is where she's gonna tell a story, and the story that she's going to tell is going to give my main character, leave him with a nightmare that he's going, or a dream slash nightmare that he's gonna have, um, about the story that she tells. But the nightmare is going to be very telling in and of itself, because in their tribe, everything has meaning. There is no such thing as something that happens that doesn't have either a past, a present, or a future meaning. And so when he has this nightmare, he goes to Tox, who he trusts, and who trusts him, to ask him, or to tell him about the nightmare and ask him, what do you think it means, etc. So that all of that has to happen in this chapter. So this is going to actually be a pretty long one, because all of that has to happen. There has to be the elder telling the story. Then he goes home with his mother and sister to go to sleep. He has a nightmare where his mother wakes him up because he's like screaming in his nightmare. And then the following day, and I think actually, yeah, so all of that is what's actually just gonna, so this chapter is actually going to end, I think it's gonna end with him having his nightmare and being woken up by his mother out of the nightmare that he's having. But then the next chapter will be um him going to Tox the following that morning and telling him about it and asking him what he thinks the dream means, which will then lead to him learning about his father, and eventually he'll learn that something about his father will be sort of like a an omen, or a premonition, or something that is going to lead to what happens to him in his youth, and then what's also going to end up in a way repeating itself in his adulthood, which is why there's a past timeline and a present timeline. And I'm choosing to do one in first person and one in third, because I think that's the best way to do it, where his past timeline, everything should be from his point of view in his past timeline, but in the present timeline there's so much happening and so many characters to flesh out and deal with. I think third person, specifically third person omniscient, not third person limited, is the best, just to be able to get the feel of the time, the space, all of the people involved, etc. But for the past timeline, it just makes more sense, I think, and it'll hopefully read better if it's told from what he can see and what he hears and what he knows and what he learns, so that we're learning along with him, and then we're kind of experiencing and using what he learned from his past to deal with his present, which is in many ways like Slumdog Millionaire. And I think I might actually rewatch that movie, just because this is told, or I'm telling it almost in the exact same way, where he's in that movie. If you've ever seen it, it's about this boy from like a Middle Eastern country who happens to be a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in, like, I don't know, it's like India or something like that. And every single question that he's asked that's leading him towards getting the $1,000,000, the answer comes from a situation that he's dealt with in his youth. So it's, the present of him sitting opposite the Regis Philbin version in India with this kid, or with this, now adult, and then he's being asked the question, and as he's being asked the question and he's looking at the options for the answers, he's remembering, or it's bringing up a memory from his youth that he then goes back to, and that memory leads him to a right answer in each question that he's being asked, which is like just it's a really amazing movie, and it deserved every award that it won. And the main character is, I can't remember his name, but he's also in the uh the hotel movie, which I also just drew a blank on. But in any event, this is a similar thing where it starts with the present day, and every time it goes to a past chapter, which is basically alternating chapters, so it starts present past. Every time it goes to a chapter where it's about the past, it's because in the present he's either reminded about something because of something happening, or he is intentionally telling or recounting something that happened in his past to someone in the present thing. And so this first jump to the past is actually him recounting a story of when he first hears about what the villain is in this story, which is a skinwalker. And so because in the present, or in his present, he believes that skinwalkers that he obliterated, got rid of, destroyed, whatever the case, however you want to phrase it, from his um from his world. But then in his present tense, a woman runs in, exacerbated or whatever, as she's describing what can only be a skinwalker having chased her into his tavern. And his children are well aware of what a skinwalker is because he's told them stories, because in his tribe, storytelling is a thing. So they, urge him, like, Dad, tell her about what a skinwalker is, because this woman, she doesn't know. Skinwalker is not something that any old person would know. Like, you would have to be a part of this tribe that he's, that he's a part of, that he grew up in, that he was born and raised in. And it would have to be a story that you had heard at some point. And so if you're just a regular villager, you'd be like, what the hell is a skinwalker? To you, it would just be a beast, an animal, a monster, whatever. You wouldn't know that its actual term, how it becomes one, what it is, all of these things. So we're going to learn what a skinwalker is from his past chapters as he re-encounters a skinwalker in the present, and he's going to use all that he learned from his youth to battle it again, because this is not his first encounter with a skinwalker, which we'll learn that it's actually going to be his second. And so he's well aware of it, and it's going to be very much like Slumdog Millionaire in that way. It's also going to be like almost like the Avengers in a way, because he's going to call his people together who helped him, or together who helped each other defeat the skinwalker back when he was a teenager. He's gonna bring them back together to say, it's back, or a new skinwalker is present, and we need to handle this. And so now everyone is 30 years older. A lot has happened in those 3 decades. He has children now. Obviously he's married. We find out that he's running a tavern that he was taken to as a child, and it ends up being left to him. And we'll learn all of these things as we go, because I think it's in book 2 that the tavern is given to him by the previous owner, and we find out what happens and what puts him in the position to be given this tavern, and why he chooses to take it, why he chooses to basically leave his tribe and not stay with them, and all of these things. We'll learn from his past chapters, while we'll see how he's able to defeat the villain again, and hopefully for the last time, in the present chapters. And this is all fantasy, by the way, so it's not based on any real world, although Skinwalkers is based on Native American beliefs and so on. So that's not made up. That's the term Skinwalker is something that you can Google and look at and find images of, etc. Okay. So what I need to do is write this story she's about to tell, because the stories are going to be very big in here, which is why in my research section I actually have this area called folklore. So I need to actually write a poem. I have some notes about what these stories are going to be like, how many are going to be about what. Like, I want to have several about skinwalkers, some about wendigos, wildebeests, wolverines, different kinds of creatures that exist. And these stories are not going to be long. They're supposed to be like Aesop fable size. So, 150, 200 words, 250 words, very short. Because that's the whole point of like telling that kind of story, is one, it's supposed to be short, and two, it's supposed to hit home. So it's got to be like creepy, scary, teach a lesson type of thing. um and so there's going to be several that are going to be teaching a lesson about skinwalkers, and then I have to write this poem, which is going to explain what a skinwalker is, how to find one, how to identify one, how to kill one, um why they're so dangerous, what makes them pure evil. It's going to be a very long, not like uh, Beowulf long, but it's going to be a long poem. And I'm trying to figure out a way to inject the stanzas or the lines of the poem in the three books in a non obtrusive or obvious way, but in an almost Easter egg type of way, where you need to take the lines as they appear in random places and then stack them to create what will be this poem that will end up in the third and final book. Um, if initially I was going to make each line a chapter title, but then I realized some of the lines are going to be really long and they may not fit with the actual chapter, so it might become a distraction to do that. And then I was thinking I would end each chapter with a line from the poem, and I think that won't be too distracting. If anything, it'll pique the reader's interest and be like, oh, what's happening here. And then eventually, I hope that they will realize, if they put all these lines together, it becomes a poem. Yeah, so that's where I am right now. And so I'm trying to think. Initially, I wanted to write each story like separately here, and then just cherry pick a story when I needed to inject one into, or cherry pick like a fable when I needed to inject it in the actual chapter itself. um which means this first story needs to be about the skinwalker, and the reason why the elder is even telling this story is intentional, because at this time there have been rumors, sightings, killings, where it's obvious that whatever is doing these things has to be a skinwalker. So the best way that the elders know to get this information to their tribe, um, is to do it through a story. And so that's why they're telling this story now. It's almost like a warning to everyone, like, be very afraid, be very aware that this thing could quite possibly be walking among us. And it actually is. And so that's why it's now that they're telling it, because they haven't had prior to our main character, who in the past timeline I believe is like 15 or 16, it was before his birth that was the last time that they've encountered one. They've always encountered one every so often, um, but it's been almost 2 decades since their last incident with a skinwalker, and now here we are, and it's happening again. And so there's like an entire generation in there that has no idea what a skinwalker is, hasn't heard about it. Oh, sorry, I had to cough there. And so because they don't know, this is how they're going to pass that information along. It's not something where the parents, of these young people would have just told them. It's a very different culture and lifestyle and upbringing, and so a lot of the lessons that they learn, a lot of the things that they learn. So it's not just the mother, and in this case, she's a single mother because the father died um, shortly after Son of River, the main character, was born. So he doesn't even have any recollection or memory of him, unfortunately. But he will find out about him. He'll be told about him. He'll be shocked to discover what kind of man his father actually was, considering the role that the men play in his tribe. I'm just writing down some preliminary notes on what this introduction to a Skinwalker story needs to be, um, and needs to tell. Because essentially, what's going to happen is a Skinwalker will be discovered like 20 years ago, and there are ways to kill and destroy a Skinwalker, but for whatever reason, those options are not working. And so there's like the absolute last option, the option that no one speaks of, that no one ever brings up, because it's not an option you ever want to have to do. And that option is that you basically attack a Skinwalker when it's in its Skinwalker form, and you harm it, meaning you make it bleed, and then like make yourself bleed, and you connect those two wounds together. And what that essentially does is it makes you half Skinwalker. You're not a complete and total, you haven't done the whole ritual thing to be a total Skinwalker, but you are now half Skinwalker. And what this does is it embodies you with, one, the ability to see them when they're in normal human form, but most importantly, the ability to kill them. However, one of the unfortunate caveats to that is that you basically die yourself. And so you are basically sacrificing yourself in order to kill a Skinwalker. But otherwise, a Skinwalker is basically immortal. So if a normal person attempted to like shoot it with an arrow, or stab it, or run a knife through it, a sword through it, whatever the case may be, it will heal very quickly. It will grow back a limb, all of these things. However, if a person who is part Skinwalker or 100% Skinwalker, which would hardly ever happen, were to attack a Skinwalker, and they, by their hand, were to drive a sword through its heart, or whatever the case may be, or chop its head off, then yes, it would actually die. However, your life would be taken along with it. And so what happens here is Son of River's father at the time, he basically sacrifices himself or volunteers to be the person to become half Skinwalker, discovers who it is, kills it, and then he dies. However, the twist that we will learn at the end of book one, and it gets kicked off from this story, is that it is at this time that his son is conceived. So it's unusual, but it's not unlikely that Son of River he won't be half Skinwalker, but he will have some of the traits and abilities that a Skinwalker has, and he won't know it yet. And when he discovers it, he'll learn how to, use those abilities, etc. But it will be because it will have been passed on to him when he was born. And so he'll learn about that. He'll learn why he has these abilities, what happens to him internally, externally, all of these things. And he'll learn to, in many ways, appreciate a father that he basically never had and never knew, because his father died right when his wife was pregnant, so he never was even there for his birth or anything like that. But in any event, and that's one of the reasons why he even decides to do what he does, is because he doesn't want his daughter or his son, his unborn son, to possibly be killed by this Skinwalker that has infiltrated their tribe. So he makes the ultimate sacrifice, and what makes it so unique is that men are not the breadwinners, they're not the leaders, they're really at the very bottom of the totem pole in their tribe. The women are the leaders, the women are the hunters, the women are the warriors, the men are not. So for him to step up, and he doesn't do it, he does it, and they don't allow him to. So it's basically, one, he goes against his tribe. Two, he does all of these things that he shouldn't have done if he knew his place. So that's another thing that his son learns, is that his father is just as rebellious as he wants to be. And so it's almost like it gives him permission to be just as rebellious, which is why it's so easy for him when the tavern is eventually offered up to him in the second book, that he takes it and he is more than ready, willing, and able to no longer live amongst his people, even though he still um, helps them defeat this, evil that has infiltrated the tribe. It's very easy for him to just be like, I'm out. I'm gonna, live at the tavern and own it, and not be here with you guys. But anyway, so all of that culminates from this story. So this story is it has to be told perfectly, and it gives some information but not all of it. For instance, she tells the story but she doesn't reveal who the member of their tribe is, that's this hero that basically sacrifices themselves for the good of the tribe. um it'll actually be his mother who will tell him when he has the nightmare and he wakes up from it. She'll be the one to say, that's that person who did that is actually your father. Um, they in the story, it's not revealed the how. I think I'm gonna leave that out. That will be something that will be um, learned or revealed I think at the end of the first book, which is that he will have to come to terms with the fact that he is, like a quarter or an eighth, or however you want to percentage it, um, that he has some skinwalker in him, so he's not 100% pure evil like a full-fledged skinwalker would be, but he has some of those um, things in his DNA. There we go. Okay, so I am actually going to end my stream because it is continuing to drop frames and I don't know why. And the only way I can troubleshoot it is to not be streaming. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my work day, since I know it's going to be a crazy one and I feel like I'm a bit distracted. But this was a good stream back. I got to talk out what's happening. On Wednesday, I am unfortunately not going to be streaming because I have to go somewhere Wednesday morning. So, and it's going to be a long time. Like it's going to be like 3 hours worth of driving at the very least, probably more. And then like an hour or so wherever we're going to end up. So I just know that even when I get back, I'm probably going to be too exhausted to even stream in the afternoon. So Wednesday is out. I will stream on Friday. So Friday I will be back. And I will be either finishing this chapter, or I'm hoping that I write this story and finish this chapter on my own off stream, which is fine, not a big deal. And that I'm actually starting on the next chapter, because I don't want to get off on the wrong foot with not sticking to my goal of writing a chapter each stream. I really want to get into that habit and build that habit up for these next 3 months, so that I can then get into an editing habit and then build from there. So thank you for anyone who stopped by, for anyone who might have been lurking. Like I said, unfortunately, I won't be back until Friday because I have something to do on Wednesday. But next week, barring any sort of change to my work schedule, I should be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. And with that, have a lovely new year. If you're going back to work like I am today, because I was off all last week. So if you're like me and today's your first day back to the office, I hope it's not going to be any type of stressful situation. And I will catch you guys